Hello and welcome to the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate podcast. You've got myself, Jim Riley, and Rod Kuntz.
Hey,
Rod,
everybody. Nice to see you. Nice to hear from you.
Rod,
Nice
it's
that
good.
you're listening in.
Yeah, and it's good to see you, Rod. It's been a week, and I know we're set to see each other in person tomorrow, but it's the season. It's the holidays, man. People are working their tails off and running around. The stores are busy. The highways are busy.
There's always a challenge. And I'm reminded of what we talked about last time. And that was, I talked about weather being a factor and not a deterrent.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same can be said for holiday season. It's a factor. It's not a deterrent to getting things done.
Yeah. And that's, this is what I want our topic to be on today. I was thinking about you over the weekend and I thought, Rod in his retirement, if you don't know, if you're listening, for our listeners, I think most of our members in the syndicate know, but Rod was officially retired, but he's always been an entrepreneur. So he's always had something. I kind of do the same thing sometimes. I want to think that retirement is what I'm doing, but I'm not. Anyways, Rod was looking for an excuse to work out. In other words, what job can I do that feels like working out? And he landed a job at UPS. I'm going to let you talk about that, Rod, but just to set the stage a little bit. So you've been there over a year now. And what I love about it is that you're busy, you're active. You've never said a single negative thing about having to go in and do this job. And what I was thinking about specifically over the weekend is that UPS truck is coming up my driveway once or twice a day, it seems like, and I know you guys are slammed and super busy. And I was thinking, how is Rod handling the increase of business this time of year? And what is the stamina that it takes to do that? You went from a few hours a couple months ago, your normal schedule, all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I'm up at 1:30. I'm in the job early. It's like, wow, you've ramped up dramatically. So talk about UPS real quickly, how you got there, why, but also talk to me about the stamina during the holiday season.
Okay. So to set the stage again, I was looking for a workout. I'm not, and I may have mentioned this before on some of our other teachings, but I'm not a gym rat. I don't like pumping iron. I don't like going to the gym. I don't like running in place. I don't like stair steppers. I don't like rowing machines. Put me in a kayak and you won't see me for days.
Yeah.
Right? But I don't like that. And running, I ran tons in the military. I ran when I was younger. And I'm run out. I've never, ever gotten that endorphin rush people talk about with the second wind. I've got a second wind, but it's just drive. It's not a high.
Yeah.
So, but I do like to be productive and I do like work. I'll chase after balls like a dog all day long. I'll play rugby, football, frisbee, ultimate frisbee. I'll do all those things. So I was looking for something to physically get me going, but it was also something that would hold me accountable to doing it regularly.
Yeah.
And so looking for someone else is the accountability factor, and looking for a workout. Well, what can you do? Unload semi-trailers, with, literally tens of thousands of packages, some of which can weigh, 150 pounds. And it's like CrossFit. And I've mentioned to you, I don't call it work. I call it my CrossFit workout, and they pay me to do it.
I was going to say a true entrepreneur gets paid to work out.
That's exactly right. So yeah, you haven't heard me complain because I was looking for something like this, and it's been a perfect fit. And then I didn't even realize it, but it's a permanent part-time job. However, it has benefits. It's a union job, but it's permanent part-time, and it has what I like to call a senatorial medical plan. In other words, to have something equal to this, you'd have to be working for the government at a high level. So it's been a blessing on many levels. And it's one of those things right now. It's peak season for UPS. Everyone's ordering Christmas and all that sort of thing. So when you get those packages, think about what it takes to get a package from point A to point B and all the things in between and all the people that are required. That's entrepreneurship, looking at the backside.
Hey, real quick, Rod, too, before you get onto the stamina that's taken during this holiday season, you talked about you were looking for a workout. and what fits your needs. But I think the real cool part about this is that you know what your values are and your goals and what's important to you. So it was easy for you to go, I don't want to say it was easy for you to go find a job, but it was easy for you to align with this opportunity that you saw, and you were able to jump on it because you knew exactly what it is you were looking for based on your values and your goals and your vision. And that stood out to you in the ad in the paper. If I remember the story right, you're in the car with your wife, you're like, oh, why don't you go apply? And then boom, here you are. And we talk a lot about in the syndicate about figuring out what your values are and then aligning your goals with your values, because then if you're able to do that, you could make decisions like what you've made. You can understand that this UPS job is going to fit exactly the need that you were looking for. So I love that you brought that up. And I'm just thinking, man, Rod knows his values and his goals. He jumped on the opportunity.
Well, the other part of this, Jim, was, you and I had just started two different enterprises, right?
Yeah.
And I had just come off of a political election cycle. And when this happened, when I went in and talked to the supervisor and told him what I was looking for, literally a workout, and I said, I don't want, I go into a place and I usually am looking for ways to improve it, how to make it better. I said, I want to come in here and have no worries. I don't want any of that. I just want to push packages, right?
Yeah,
I want to lift and haul, and I don't want to be thinking about how to better it. Although the first 2 days on the job, I'm thinking, man, I should be undercover boss because I can already see ways to improve it. And it's been hard to just shut my mouth and know and remember my place, because I don't have time to fix other things there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm there for the workout, and so that I have the free time afterward. And it was a 3-hour gig, which is now, today I went to work. The belt started at 2:15 a.m. and I was done at 10.
Wow. Pretty good day.
I put in an 8-hour day before my day started. But if you're up at 6 a.m., 5 a.m., 4 a.m., 1 a.m., it's no big deal. I was shoveling my sidewalk at 1:45 this morning. There was snow on my sidewalk, and a group of kids kids, right? They must have been old enough to drink because the bars had just closed.
Yeah.
They drove down the street and they said, hey, mister, they said, do you know it's 2:00 in the morning and it's cold out? So anyway.
That's awesome.
it is awesome. But again, I knew what I wanted to do. And my values were, I didn't want to get drawn into a work cycle outside of the work I'm intending to do.
Yeah.
With the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate, that's my priority. Teaching, that's my priority. But I will have some other stories to tell you about a challenge I set up at work with other employees.
Okay. Look forward to that. So Rod, let's talk about stamina, because here you are in a role that you're very specific about why you're there. But there's a need different times of the year that requires more of you, right? More of your time, attention, and in what I like to call the stamina to get up to this holiday pace. And we see these upticks in business in a variety of businesses around the world. I always think about tax season. Drives me nuts, by the way, right? It's tax season every year, and you start making the calls because you need help. That's what we do, and that's why they have jobs. But the same thing comes back. I don't know, my whole entire life, tax people, our accountant, it's tax season. I'm super busy. I'll get to you when I can. It's like, come on, man, build out your team. Don't take any more clients or whatever it takes, but bring some value to me. I mean, it's going to happen every year. So here you are, we're coming into the holiday season, things are going to ramp up there. How do you get mentally prepared, physically prepared, and how do you maintain what you need to do through the entire season?
Well, first, I will say no excuses.
Right.
If I were an accountant and I knew that this season was coming up, I would be getting up at 1 a.m. and preparing for peak season.
Sure.
And know that it's just for a month or 2 months, and then you can relax, right? You have to plan ahead. And the excuses, it's a pet peeve of mine as well. But I'll tell you, Jim, I heard a keynote address at the military JAG school in Charlottesville, Virginia, back in 1984. And it was a general talking to, a whole bunch of new Army officers, Army lawyers. And he was saying, you're going to be totally overwhelmed when you get out there. You're going to, all of a sudden, all the stuff you've been learning, it's going to get dumped on you, and you're going to feel like you're just totally overwhelmed. And the advice that he gave to that class, I'll never forget it because it made perfect sense. It really resonated with me. He said, what you need to do is saw the wood in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't look at that whole mountainside full of trees and say, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? Right. You just focus on the one that's in front of you and you get it done. And you go to the next one and you get it done. And the next one, you get it done. UPS, for example, I go there for a 3-hour workout in the morning, and I am 15 minutes into my shift. I'm sweating. I've broken a sweat. I'm working out. Well, that went from 3 hours to today, just short of 8 hours. So that's an 8-hour workout. And I likened it to one of the people there today. I said, this is like going into triple overtime. You train for a 2-3 hour game or a fight, right? You train for that, but now you're going to do 3 of them back to back.
Yeah.
And it's no different than being in a wrestling tournament, for example, and I know you wrestled in high school, but instead of just having, one match, now all of a sudden you might be at divisionals. You might have 3 or 4 matches in a day.
Sure.
Just do what's in front of you. And that's it. And your mind, here's the thing, your body is more than capable of doing anything you ask of it. It will do more than you ask of it in most cases before it breaks down. What stops people is up here. Mm-hmm. It's between the ears, and it's in the chest. It's the heart. So if you just know that you can get it done, your body will follow you. Just get it done and stop making excuses and figure out ways to make it happen. And if it's a busy time of year, hire more staff, get some apprentices on, find a way to streamline your processes. Start looking at plan a year in advance. When it finally does slow down, you're past the April 15th deadline. Don't slack off in the summer. Do a backward planning, some after actions reports, and figure out how you can streamline your processes, your systems, how you could hire apprentices, college kids over the summer to help get things in order. Figure out a way, whatever it is. Your business better than anybody else. That's right. So be willing to delegate some of those tasks out to improve your business and lay off the excuses.
Well, they talk about, planning and being prepared and all those other things. And like you said, you built the stamina to go triple overtime, because you are willing to show up every day and do the job. And when more is required of you, you're there. And I like how blunt you are about no excuses. And I feel the same, and it's interesting when you talk about this for a minute is when this holiday season, we're all out buying and shopping and doing, and it still feels like many businesses are using the excuse of COVID to give subpar service, to have subpar goods available, right? And people they cling to having excuses and allowing that to extend beyond normal periods of time. I mean, things happen, but as a whole, they can be corrected quickly, and you can still offer 100%, whether it's physically or in what you're doing, your business.
Absolutely. And use it all as a learning process. No matter what business, we all have peaks. We all have ebbs and flows. So figure out how to maximize your downtime and maximize your peak time. I mean, it's that simple. You've got 2 things to look at: downtime and peak time. Figure it out. And it's all figure outable. That's the other thing. There's always a solution.
It's amazing to me, Rod. We've got a local brewery between your place and my place in town there. And, they got a pretty good beer product, but they have a phenomenal food product. And when they open, my wife and I and kids, we'd go there, and they have beef tips and stuff like that. They do the smoker. And after they started getting a little bit busy, we'd go in there at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock for dinner, and a beer, and they'd be like, "Oh, we're out of meat." It's like, it's prime time dinner, and you're already out of meat within the first hour of that dinner. Like, I would understand if it's 9 o'clock at night or 10 or something. Right. No, we're out of meat. Right. So then we started tapering off visiting there, because every time we went back, they were out. I was like, well, I'm not going to come here at 3 o'clock. Like, if you can't get your shit together, like, what am I doing here? Right. Well, what's interesting is as a consumer, I'm going, they got a good thing. And I continue to be willing to give them a shot. Right. So then they started doing Sunday breakfast about 4 months ago. And so we started their ads. It's like, oh, we got to get over there. We finally went in for Sunday breakfast, and it was marginal at best. The menu looked good, but the food was marginal at best. Service was marginal. And everybody kept telling us, like, oh, the breakfast is so good. So we gave them a shot again, and they kept letting us down. And finally, last week we went in there and they were out of like everything. Right. And it was interesting, Rod. The waitress was actually rude to us about them being out. Like, how dare you come in here and not be satisfied with what we have? Wow. And I don't know if it's because she's been so beat up over their lack of planning and being prepared and throwing so many excuses out. But I've watched this business ebb and flow. And the reason why I bring this up is because I think the discussion that we're having about stamina and not having excuses, it's so important in all the roles of our businesses, to think about and realize that you have consumers out there trying hard to be your consumer. And all you have to do is not have any excuses and just do a better job. And that's why I wanted to tell the story. Like, I'm trying so hard to be their customer and I can't. And then they're offending me, like, okay, I'm done.
Well, this gets down to leadership, right?
Yeah.
Whoever owns that, manages that place, that comes down to the leadership style. And in my book, Warpath Alliance, the R stands for responsible. Mm-hmm. Someone's responsible. And if they're not getting the job done, they're being irresponsible. And that is a lack of leadership. So it goes all the way down, or all the way up in this case, to the leaders. There's no excuse for that except poor leadership.
I love it. Well, look, I think we've extended our time here on the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate podcast. We usually try to keep these to be about 20 minutes. Tonight it's Monday, and Rod it's his turn to teach the class under the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate. Rod, what's your topic? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yes, I do. It's technical skills versus soft skills.
Okay.
In other words, training versus development. What
a great discussion. And if you're not familiar with what we do, our whole goal and objective is to create entrepreneurs and give you the skills that you need to be successful. And by the way, we also have the term entrepreneurs so that you can be successful if you're an employee, much like what we've talked about, Rod, over at UPS. Maybe you're at a place like UPS and you're aspiring to move up that corporate ladder, unlike Rod just getting a workout in. We want to give you the skills to be an entrepreneur as well as an entrepreneur. And we build all these foundational elements through our Monday night calls. And by the way, we have a really robust Q&A. If you've got questions about anything you're doing, Rod and I are both on the call. So you've got 50 plus years of entrepreneurial experience. Oftentimes our other partner, Rachel, will be there and she can talk about marketing, but tremendous amount of value coming through our syndicate. Go online, check us out. The fee is very reasonable. It's almost embarrassing how reasonable it is. And if you're not ready for that, please continue to listen to these shows. We've got a YouTube channel, and Rod and I will keep bringing value here. By the way, not to give us too much credit, is I literally talked to Rod for 5 minutes before we jumped on Zoom and recorded this. We have so much to share. It's like a fire hose of information. Doesn't it feel like that way, Rod?
It always is. By the way, speaking of fire hose, I do have to talk to you about values at UPS. I'm not there to change their systems, but I can change people. And so real quick, here's what I've done. There's a lot of swearing goes on early in the morning, right?
Yep.
And I've turned my sphere, which is probably about a 20 square foot area, into a no swear zone. So if people come in and they're, they drop an F-bomb or something, they owe 5 push-ups.
Nice.
There's not time to do 10 or 20. They got to drop and do 5 where they can bank them.
Yeah.
So it's a no swear zone and you'd be amazed at how, and I instituted this about 2 weeks ago, and I've got players, and you'd be amazed at how I've cleaned up the language.
Wow.
How that one thing has cleaned up the language with the people that surround me. It's just like being aware that, you can find another word, that there's something else. And that gets down to values, and mm-hmm. One gentleman told me, he says, yeah, my kids are, teenage kids are picking up, and they now know that I'm not swearing as much. It's a noticeable shift. So you can make a difference without getting involved in the business thing. You can get involved in the personal relationships and change those values. So make a difference wherever you are. Merry Christmas.
Well, you know what, Rod, that is a gift, because when you realize that you can make a difference, as subtle as that might be, I mean, where does that go, right? Where does your little zone go from a no swear zone into a something different zone? All of a sudden it's a positivity zone, and it encourages all these other things. Next thing you know, you guys are pushing twice as many boxes through because of your efficiencies and how you've collaborated on the zone, right? I mean, what a great thing to be doing. I'm glad you shared that story.
Well, now we're definitely over time. It's always a pleasure. We'll pick this up next week.
Well, thanks for tuning in. If you like what Rod and I are talking about on the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate podcast, please share it with others. You can share the link, tell them about it. Jump on our website, theyoungentrepreneurssyndicate.com. There's something for everybody on there. Rod, you did name drop your book, Warpath Alliance. Wonderful book. I read it last year as I was getting to know Rod. And I've got a book out, The Freedom to Say Yes, both available on Amazon. You can go right straight to our website and click on the link, as well as a lot of other books that we're recommending people read that are not written by us, but people that we respect and admire. So have a great holiday season. Thank you for tuning in. Hell, Rod, we might drop one more of these before Christmas. So I'm not going to say,
I think we better.
Yeah, I think we better too. All right. We'll see you tonight on the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate call. Talk soon.
Look forward to it.